So it's my privilege to welcome Esteban. Hi, Esteban. Good to see you. Esteban, rather than me do an introduction, you can do it yourself, basically. I think, uh, where are you? And yeah, where are you?
Sure. Thank you, Simon, and thank you everyone to join us today. My name is Esteban Amestegui. I'm from Cochabamba, Bolivia. If you haven't heard the name of that country before, it's at the heart of South America. Our flag is red, yellow, and green. So many people tend to think that it's an African country, but it's an African country in South America. Uh, I work as the global coordinator for resources and praying in Langham preaching. And I've been involved and I've been working with Langham since 2019.
Excellent. Well, we'll delve into more into that in a bit. You don't look old enough, Esteban, to have worked for Langham for 8 years. So, Esteban, so tell us. So I can picture Bolivia. So whereabouts is that? Sort of north, south? The town where you live?
Also, Bolivia is at the center of South America,
Hmm.
and Cochabamba, it's also at the center of
Okay.
South America. So if you just put your finger in the center, you will be touching my city.
Okie dokie, excellent. Right, we've got. I've got a pic. Well, I've got a picture of that. Everyone else can be getting their Google Maps up and working that out. So you were playing with your background. So you are at home, but that's not your home, as it were. That's not your background. But tell us about home, family that you have.
Sure, and yes, sorry. Sometimes my light is not very good in the room where I work, so that's the reason why I use this virtual background. But let me share you a little bit of my family. In this picture, oh, sorry. Let me share my screen again. So in this picture, you can see me. That's my wife. Her name is Alejandra Garron, and that's my little daughter. Her name is Ariana. This is on her when she was when we were celebrating her third year. So she's 3 years old right now, and she talks a lot. She's very intelligent. Every single day we are very happy with all of her comments and her ideas. We've been married for 6 years now.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I was going to say, I'm hoping you're going to tell us that that was her third birthday, or it was it was an odd set of pictures. I was looked at a good cake as well. Ah, wonderful. So she is she a preacher in the making by the sounds of things? If her vocabulary is coming along and coming along, perhaps you can tell us then a bit about your personal journey. Home's always been Bolivia.
Yes. Well, my parents went to All Nations
Okay.
seminary. They studied there for 2 years when I was 3 years old. So I learned English then, and I never forget about it. Forgot about how to speak in English. But when I was 5 years old, my family came back to Bolivia. They went to study how mission in All Nations. And well, a little bit about my background with Langham, right?
Yeah. Well, yes. Well, but yes,
Okay.
go for that, Espan. Yes, please do.
Okay. So, well, maybe I could start with my background with the faith.
Yeah, yeah,
My
please do. Yeah, yeah,
my
let's do that.
family.
Yes, if you talk about yourself, and then we'll see
uh,
where Langham comes into that. It comes into that
Okay.
picture. So no, tell
Okay.
us about how you came to faith.
Okay. So, my family was always Christian, but so I had a contact with the faith there. But when I was 12, 13 years old, I made the commitment to follow Jesus. I was going through emotional crisis, the type of crisis you go when you are that age. But God used it so I can get to know Him more, and I made the decision to follow Him and become a Christian. And from then, I've been part of a preaching club, a Langham preaching club, when I was 17 years old in my local church. Then through the years, I've went through the three levels that Langham preaching has, and I became part of the preaching team in my local church. And every single week, we met every Wednesday at night for to listen the feedback from the previous sermon from last Sunday, and to hear the preparation of the sermon for the next Sunday. So it's been an incredible process because people, especially the preachers, were able to give their ideas of how they see the sermon going next Sunday, but also they made improvements. So when they preach on Sunday, it's a very good sermon. And the next Sunday, the next Wednesday, they will receive more feedback so they can improve as preachers. And well, from then I've been translating the prayer shot that I imagine all of you receive,
Hmm.
for many years. And then I become part of the team of Langham Preaching, serving as personal assistant of the director for Latin America. From then, I had the opportunity to collaborate with Jennifer Cuthbertson. She was
Hmm.
the coordinator for facilitator development, and I helped her, especially during the pandemic, because all of the things that we used to do in person, we need to start to think how we can do this on an online environment. So that's been my journey with Langham, and also a little bit about my background as a
Ah,
Christian.
no, thank you, Esteban. So it sounds like you've known no other way apart from the Langham way from a preaching perspective. If you were doing that when you were sort of 16 or 17. So yeah, no, that's fascinating. Um, so during that time, um, you see your church and your preachers, your ministers, your leaders at your church, you're seeing them develop week on week almost through going through that program. Um, but perhaps are you directly involved much in Bolivia with the preaching program, or is that more you looking at it more internationally? What I'm trying to see is just the picture that's in Bolivia really, and what how the preaching program's working there at all.
Oh, so because I'm also a preaching club coordinator.
Okay.
We are part of network in Cochabamba with all of the preaching club coordinators. We meet once a month. I think we have between 30 and 40 preaching clubs in Cochabamba, and in the country we have a higher number. Every single year we have a national event when people from all the country comes and we study a book. This year, for example, we are going to study the book How to Preach the Prophets, and we're going to study the book of Habakkuk. Habakkuk.
Yeah.
And it's the team really studies well what is the book that is going to be more useful for the entire country. And since we're going through a lot of struggle with justice, and also with a huge crisis, the book of Habakkuk is really relevant, and that's something that
Hmm.
the team really focus on. But we have a national team in Bolivia, and it's incredible how people normally gets involved, and they say, I wish I had this program before in my life, because I don't know what I was preaching before. I wasn't doing expository preaching or biblical preaching. But now that I know, not only my devotional life is better, but also the sermons are easier to do, and they are especially faithful to the text. So that's one of the comments that we normally hear in the national movement.
Well, let's stick with that, Esteban, because I think we'll come back to your role, and I want to explore that. But while you're talking about your own country, you sent through the prayer points that you'd got, and a lot of those prayer points, yes, some of them are personal, but I think over half of them were for your country, and I think it was quite interesting that there was points about the environment, and I know you're going to share an image about the fires that you've had in Bolivia. A point was political, that you got elections coming up, and then of course the uh, sort of the economic situation as well that you find yourselves in. So perhaps you can. I think if you can you try and join those two together. So you're just talking about the book of Habakkuk and how you're going to be sharing that around through the preaching coordinators. And to me, that seems so strategically the right time and the right place when you're talking about those things that you got in your prayer points. Perhaps you want to talk about some of those situations that you got happening in your country, and then how that preaching almost slots into what's happening there.
Mhm. So let me share. This is a photo from my city last year. Actually, last year, the entirety of the country had smoke like this. It was very difficult to see from one point to the city to the other. And the reason for this is that many acres, many millions of acres were burned down for agriculture, for the agro industry. So the problem with that is that it produced this huge environment crisis in the whole country, in every single city. We lost a lot of animals and their environments. We lost many of the indigenous communities that live nearby those forests were with a lot of were in danger. And yeah, so it was a huge issue that we had last year. I think thank God we had rain, but even with the rain, for 2 weeks the air quality was terrible and produced a lot of issues for many people. And also the like the city was with this type of air and this really dense smoke. So it was something really terrible that happened last year. Um, and the reason is that this type of industry brings a lot of money, and
Mm.
because we're going through an economical crisis, they wanted to extend the land to do this type of businesses or to do
Mm.
this type of industry. Um, the other problems that we have is that we have a shortage of dollars. The government paid a huge amount of debt with the dollars that we have, and the country right now has a shortage. And because of that reason, the value of the dollar increased. So anything that we need to import from another countries has doubled the price, or at least double the price. And so food, medicines, many things like that are now really expensive. And the other issue that we have is we use dollars to buy gas or diesel. And right now the government pays half of the price of that
Right.
for the common person to get gasoline or fuel or diesel. And because now the government has no dollars and they are paying extra to cover the price, now we also don't have fuel. And every single person that has a car, they need to do 5-hour lines to get some. And that is if you're lucky. because and it happened to me. I will get into a line, I will be 3 hours or more, and then someone will go out and tell everybody that there's no more fuel and you need to go back home because you will be wasting your time in that line. And if that's something that goes for normal fuel, diesel, that is the the fuel that industry uses for doing their work,
Mm.
transportation, or or the farmers use it a lot too. That's even more difficult to get, and they can be days in line to get it. So
Mm.
another issue with that is that um, the government has been very corrupt, and we find out a lot about a lot of scandals related with corruption. The son of the president is the owner of many kilometers of land, and he's like 26 years old, and there's no any reason to think that he earned that money to buy that land in a correct way.
Mm.
So there's scandals in that, and unfortunately, the other candidates, all of the candidates, none of them are very convincing. So we hope that we can make a good decision for the next president and for the next government. But it's very sad to be living this on the year that we are celebrating 200 years of the foundation of the country. So that's a little bit of the problems that we
Yeah,
are going.
that's bittersweet, isn't it? So you got national elections middle of August. You were saying that you've got those elections, and again, just to go back to that point, isn't it? I think that's just so important as preachers go out leading up to that, not to be political, but like you say, that they don't that they seek out that injustice and seek that justice through their preaching. No, thanks for that insight there, Esteban. And we've certainly, when we bring the prayer points up in a moment, we'll do that. Let's go back to your role then, your international roles. Just so you're the sorry, what did you call it? Global resources, sort of coordinate the global resources for Langham. Just share with us something exciting that's happening there. You've perhaps hinted at that already with sort of the online stuff. Something that's really exciting that's happening and that you sort of makes you jump out of bed in the morning. But then perhaps also share with us a challenge that is really on your heart at the moment with your role. Or you're just on mute, Esteban.
Sorry.
Not at
So
all.
I'm involved with the developing multimedia resources, especially for oral people.
Mm,
Uh, Also thinking about the new generations that are more used to watching videos than probably reading a book. So we are all for the books. They are amazing. But we also try to complement it with videos that they can also watch while they are reading or complement it.
mm,
I'm also involved with Langham Connect. That is an international team of facilitators, and we focus more on instead of doing the lesson as we normally do um, for all the for the whole planet, we try to adapt it to the needs and the characteristics of every single culture, so it will be more natural for people to learn.
hmm
Um, so I'm also involved with the improvements in the prayer shop, and we are developing a youth advisory group for Langham preaching. The focus of that would be to have more of a intergenerational leadership, and also try to find ways to get more young people involved, especially Gen Z, that they are now coming up, and because they will inject a lot of energy, new ideas, and they know how to talk to the newer generations. So that will be very useful. So now the things that excite me the most are the improvements in the prayer shot. We now have a video version with a guided prayer. So you will, if you follow the video, you can pray along with it.
Okay.
And the youth advisory group, it's one of the things that excite me the most because I think this new generation is very skillful, very dynamic, and they have also a lot of need. And I think God has a lot to say to them. And I also think they have a lot to provide to the church and also to the preaching movements that we have around the globe. Um, Something personal that it's working on in my church. We have a new preaching club, and we're studying the book of Philemon. So me and my wife, we are very excited about this, and I started also a Bible study for men in my church.
Mm.
So one week we study the book of Mark and we try to find out who is Jesus from the book of Mark. And the other week we invite more people to join us. So we play football, and it's been a great way to get people that will not assist to church to go to play football, but then we invite them to the Bible study, or we have like a very short sermon before we start playing. So it's been a good way to get people involved and also to do something that is very healthy for everyone.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that's probably one of the joys when you mentioned the Langham Connect group, and I think, and you were talking about the Generation Z, because it would be so easy, wouldn't it, for the preaching coordinators in Bolivia to be talking about it, Indonesia to having the same conversation, Kenya having the same conversation, and not and repeating each other. You know, how many countries is Langham preaching in? 85, something like that. So you could have 85 different conversations happening, but having you there being able to coordinate that and have one conversation as probably saving a lot of saving a lot of time in just finding what does make that generation tick and what makes them happen. Any sort of challenges apart from the ones you've already shared, Esteban, obviously about what's happening in your country? Anything from a Langham perspective that is challenging at the moment?
So in my local church, because I'm coordinating the preaching club, after a while, I think a few months, they invited me to preach. And on Sunday, 3 of August,
Hmm.
I will preach a sermon actually in the book of Habakkuk. And uh, it's actually very challenging because it will be 3 days before we have the 200 years of the foundation of the country, and it will be like 1 week or 2 weeks before the elections.
Yeah.
So I feel really honored to be preaching a sermon on that, but I also feel a lot of responsibility, and I will ask your prayers for that because it's a big challenge, and I hope that all my preparation from being formed with Langham and also from being part of Langham will be very useful for this challenge.
Well, bless you, Esteban. Well, the good news is that we've got 30 people on this call that will want to do exactly that. So they will be really keen and eager to pray for you.